Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. I found a good solution for dealing with really soft woods. And this goes back several years, but I could not for the life of me prevent the wood from fracturing in between tails and pins. Didn't matter how sharp the chisel was. So I started experimenting with the primary bevel, and I ended up, I just would grind it a little more acute and sharpen it and try it. And I got to 17 degrees and it worked extremely well, but it makes for a very fragile edge. Such that I tell people, if you're going to do this, you need to have a couple of designated chisels that you only use on really soft woods. This happens to be aspen. But even at that, folks have a tough time with it and they have a tendency to wreck it. But I want to show you how to sharpen it, and I want to give you a few tips on using it to preserve that thin edge. So from over here, I use two stones, a 1,300 trend and a 16,000 Shapton. Just wipe some of the crud off of this before I do it. Before every sharpening, I come in with the 300 grit side and I just do a quick flattening of that stone. I use hone right as a lubricant. Now that's really low angle, so locate it. The nice thing about it is it's large enough, it's easy to find. I always keep both hands tied together somehow so that they operate as one instead of independently. Find the primary, come up a few degrees, little wee short strokes. If you try to do a normal circular pattern like this with a narrow chisel, you end up, or it's easy to end up skewing the end instead of keeping it square. So I just do little forward and back strokes. Don't have to move laterally very much. Do that until you can detect a slight burr on the back side. Shouldn't take very long. And I'm probably up a couple of degrees off of that 17 degree. As soon as you feel the burr, transfer over here to the 16,000. I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to come up just a little bit higher, not much. And you can see a full width black shadow in the stone so that you know your edge is straight corner to corner. Then flip that over on the back and just a couple of seconds to remove any burr. Wipe the moisture off. Now, I'm cutting between a couple of tails. I've already gone in and used the fret saw, and I've got a little too much material left to just put the chisel right in there. So I'm going to come in and do a little preliminary chop first. You can better see how much we have. I use a light mallet on this as opposed to my regular heavy one. Little chop like that, just get some of that excess material to back off so that when I put my chisel on the gauge line, I don't have so much waste building up pressure trying to shove that edge back. I hold it very lightly and let the chisel go where it wants to go. It'll naturally want to undercut somewhat because of the pressure of the waste, but don't hold it firmly. You may end up bending that very fragile tip. I use this thing almost like you would if you can imagine how you would use a scalpel if you were a physician. Then I set my chisel right in that gauge line, feel for it, keep it standing plumb. Wasn't quite wide enough to do the whole thing. Now, I'm going to pop that out and make sure the corners are nice and clean, but I'm going to let you look in there and see how nice and clean that is. There's no fracturing, no broken fibers. That's the advantage of a 17 degree. But I warn you, you have to be very careful with it. It won't take any abuse at all, and definitely not something you can use in hardwood. In fact, I save mine for basswood, aspen, pine, sometimes poplar, but that starts to get a little bit tough. Anyway, I figure if you have a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch chisel, you can get away with not needing any more in terms of which ones you're going to turn into a 17 degree. But it does such a great job on chopping those fragile woods and not wrecking them. I just think it's great. Anyway, that's your tip for the day. See ya.